Welcome to RPG Book Club, a podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Sam.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be continuing our coverage of Folklore, playing until we reach the end of Chapter 3 for both characters. But before we get started, how is everyone's week?
Pokemon came out today.
Wait, it did?
It did.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was
Pokemon's
coming out later tonight. But
No,
that's
it
exciting.
came out last night. I played a tiny bit of it. It's Pokemon. It's the
Nice.
beginning of a Pokemon game, so I'm getting to learn what a Pokemon trainer is and shit. Having lots of cutscenes where 3D models are like gesticulating and moving their mouths, but I'm not hearing anything because it's a Pokemon game. And recent Pokemon games, they like to have real ass cutscenes, but still no voice acting, and it feels weird.
Like, I appreciate the Dragon Quest series for not having voice acting all the way through all of the 3D ones until they got to 11S. But having watched a Let's Play of the original Japanese and the S, it's so much better with voice acting. They should have just had voice acting this whole time. I get that it was tradition, but it's a bad tradition. Pokemon should have voice acting.
Agreed.
Yeah, and with say a game like Folklore, it's like, oh well, I mean, they couldn't afford more voice acting than they have, but Pokemon and Dragon Quest can afford it.
Yeah, absolutely. But with Pokemon, they would be reusing the voice acting clips from the 3DS. We should all dex it. What about you, Trish? Did you do anything fun this week?
Not too much. I was actually very unsure, and then you brought up the voice acting thing, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because anime I've mentioned on the podcast before is one I've really enjoyed from this last year. Rock is a Lady's Modesty, the one with the lesbians playing rock music, and playing rock music is a very thinly veiled metaphor for sex, and being gay. Is so good. It's getting a dub.
Wow.
Last I checked, only the first 4 episodes had come out. They're really good. Let me look really quick. Most of the voice actors are relatively new and haven't been in a ton of stuff. But the main character is being played by Nami's voice actress from One Piece, and I'm trying to remember the actress's name because I just think of her as Nami's voice actress, but no, she has Lucy Christian. Lucy Christian is the main character. And at first I was like, her voice is a little too smooth because while she puts on a fancy lady mask, underneath everything, the main character of that show is a fucking gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that with literally gets very sharp teeth and stuff and looks like she's going to bite you. But eventually she kind of settles into the role in a way that I feel like is working for the most part. And it's somehow even gayer dubbed.
You love to see it.
Love to see it. I especially love to see it. But yeah, that's been good. I found out, hey, guess what? You can get paid. You could go to an HR meeting in across town on company time. I did that today.
Nice.
By which you mean I called a meeting with HR. I did not get called into a meeting with HR. I think some very productive stuff was done, so hopefully things will be going forward in a good thing with that. And then also, maybe fingers crossed on this, randomly today, one of my coworkers, Jesse, the reference librarian, was just like, hey, Trish, you DM, right? I was like, yeah, I've been known to do that. She was like, yeah, well, there used to be this thing where we had someone who would do that and would run games for teenagers to help them they'll start understanding the game and all that stuff and help them through it all. And he doesn't work here anymore and no one else has been able to do it since. Would you want to do that? I was like, yes, I will.
That's so cool.
Whatever my issues with D&D as a system, I will happily run teams through D&D. That sounds delightful and get paid to do it.
You should run them through Pathfinder.
Here's the thing, is you say that, I was literally going to be like, I'll run them through D&D, and then once we've done a couple modules, I can be like, okay, what other stuff would you like to do? Do you want to do superhero stuff? Do you want to do sci-fi? Do you want to do like here are all these other systems with other things we could be doing? What do you think?
Yeah, if this were a class, I wouldn't start with D&D. I would start with what's the Powered by the Apocalypse that's fantasy? Adventure World, something like
Oh,
that.
something like that. Yeah, or Dungeon
Yeah.
World.
Dungeon World maybe. I would start with that one where it's very rules light and just get them like into the swing of things. But this isn't a class, so you have to play D&D first because that's why they signed up. So
Yeah,
you were doing
agreed.
you were doing it correctly. You could lie to them and play Pathfinder and say it's D&D, but there's no way you could lie to them and play Dungeon World and say that it's D&D.
Yeah. No. What about you,
See,
Sam? What have you been
if
up
I
to? Oh.
if I were to be asked, do you want to DM, do you want to dungeon master Dungeons and Dragons and interact with teenagers at the same time, I would say, could you kill me instead? That's me. So I'm glad there are people that can
Well,
do that.
I went to college specifically and got a degree with the hopes of being a high school teacher. Like, I like interacting with teenagers. I think teaching teenagers and being a, I don't know, role model or whatever is fun. I like it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I am scared of teenagers.
Oh, so you're that one song by, wait, what band was that?
My Chemical
Was it My
Romance,
Chemical
teenagers
Romance?
scare the living hell out of me.
Yeah, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. My week is much worse than both of those.
Oh,
We're gonna start with the good though, because every time I get going on why my week is suck, I've forgotten to talk about the very good parts of my week. So we're gonna start with the good so that doesn't happen. Digimon's real fucking good. Like it's stupid good how good it is, and it so on the Super Nintendo was the last time that we could do this, where you get to go and you're about to fight the Emperor in Final Fantasy VI, and you've had a long adventure, and you've gone to everywhere in the world, and you're like, this is it. They're gearing up for the bad thing, the final act, and then the game is like, psych, you're only halfway done, and we're like, what? And then we weren't able to do that for a very long time because you had discs. So if in disc 1 of Final Fantasy VIII, they're like, here we go, we're going to fight the bad guy. You're like, okay, no, we're not.
we're gonna fight Ultimisia.
It's like, oh, I have 3 more discs. So something's not going to go right. And with like Clair Obscure, even I knew that fight with the Paintress was not going to go the way I wanted to, because there was a lot of content that I wasn't able to get to. And so it's like it was obvious there was more. Because Digimon, I'm playing it downloaded, but I think it comes on 1 disc, even if I had it on physical. It gave me a big long honking quest, and we were about to go in and do the final thing, and I had like cleared out everything that had happened so far, and it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to go fight the main bad guy, I hope everything's okay. It's like the shit was on fire. Like it was like rallying the troops. This is the final moment of the anime type thing. And I was maybe a third of the way through. And then they did it again, like 10 hours later into the game. And they keep doing it. And it's so cool. And it's worked every single time. And, yeah, if you enjoy time travel stories, Trish, you will love
I love them.
Time Stranger.
I love them.
You will absolutely love Time Stranger. If you also love Greek mythology, you will love Time Stranger. It's just really, really good. And in a weird bit of brand synergy, which is not something that Bandai is known at doing at all. A couple of months ago, when they announced, Time Stranger is going to take place in a special kind of the digital world called Iliad. By the way, there's also one called Shambhala, which is based on like Chinese and Japanese mythology. And that was just like a, by the way, there's not a game on it or whatever. But since then, they've come out with digital, like the Digivices, the VPETs. And those have all had like short prose in them that is tied in to Shambhala. And the new anime that just started has some big, like, this is probably based on Chinese and Japanese mythology vibes way early on. And that's really cool. And so it's like, for the first time, the anime and the toy line and the video games all are like in conversation with each other, which doesn't happen. This is Digimon. Like, first off, we never have the three at the same time. Second off, the three are almost never involved. And the way that this is all lining up is just plugging in all the right parts of my brain, and it's really exciting.
Hell yeah.
What's not so exciting, though, as astute listeners will remember, last week my car wouldn't start, and I had to take it into the shop. I got word back from the shop that it's going to be a big old fuck you bill, because basically the engine is shot, and they have to, at the very least, tear it apart to see what's wrong, and more than likely replace the whole damn thing. And that sucks. That's a big number. So I called on Thursday to my bank to be like, hey, I owe you a lot of money, but this will also cost a lot of money for me to fix. What can you do? And they gave me the runaround. They told me, I'll call you right back right after this, every single day since Thursday. And only now did I finally get word from them. And there's no way in hell that they can like refinance a broken car to be worth more than it already is. And so there's basically no way for me to repair this car. He's going to look at what my options are to like voluntary repo or scrap or whatever, but I'm still going to owe the $20,000. And so, waiting to hear exactly how that goes. But, because I've had a week to worry about the worst case, so I get Walmart Plus so I can get my groceries delivered. So that's not a big deal. If I am feeling like getting myself a little treat or something, there's a shopping plaza with a gas station, 3 restaurants, and a laundromat that I don't have to cross any traffic to get to. The intersection I live right by is 2 roundabouts, and the first roundabout doesn't have anything going straight. It all turns, so the sidewalk going along the straight side doesn't cross traffic, and then on the other side I don't cross any of the things because I hang a right, and that's where the plaza is. So with like a very easily walkable place to go get treats. The gas station is stupid expensive. They had Blue Bunny ice cream, the like generic brand, get it at the dollar store, Blue Bunny ice cream. A pint of that was $7.99. So Blue Bunny is not Ben and Jerry's. It does not deserve $7.99 for a fucking pint of shitty ice cream. So it's super overpriced. So thankfully my favorite local soda, Doc, shouts to Doc. You should sponsor this podcast. Nobody will be able to buy it. We don't have any listeners besides me in Wisconsin, but they write the MSRP on their label, and so does Arizona, and so does Vintner's Chips. So if I want a treat, I can go get one of those and pay normal people money, because there's no way they can be like, oh, that Arizona is going to cost $3.99 because it says 99 cents on the can. So so going there is super easy. Going to Walmart is only like a 23-minute drive, and I would only have to cross 2 roads of traffic, so it's not horrible. Everything being carless is fine. The thing that sucks is on Wednesdays, Scarlett has Girl Scouts on the south side, and it's like a 23-minute drive from her house from Summer's house to Girl Scouts. But Andy has a work truck and a regular truck, and so on Wednesdays I just borrow his regular truck while he's at work, and I can make that work. And then on top of all of that, there's a small town used car lot that doesn't even have a web presence, so all of their stuff is really, really cheap. And their stuff is like $3,000 to $4,000 to get me a beater car, and Andy said he'll go in with me on the beater car so I can get back on the road, have a car to do things on while I pay off this real big loan that I can't afford and don't have a car for anymore. So it's one of the shittiest ways this could have gone, but because I've had a week to prepare for it, it's not that bad. And all things told, it'll be okay. But
The preparation definitely helps. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if y'all need a ride anywhere, get a bus pass because it's not me.
I have a wife for that. That's
Okay,
what my
cool.
wife is for.
Yeah, because I know originally I had said I would drive all the way to the East Coast to give you a ride, but now I can't do that anymore. I'm sorry. But yeah. Other than that, I played a lot of Folklore this week, and it's neat. I'm so glad we're playing a bad game on this podcast again. Bad asterisks lovingly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ellen, starting with her, she's sure that whatever happened at the church has something to do with her past, so she decides to follow that lead and track down the lighthouse keeper, Ryan. She goes to the pub, and going to the pub is just what people do on the British Isles. And the pub owner says that Ryan was a good mate, but he isn't around anymore, on account of his horrible unsolved murder and all that. He says that he's always thought that Harriet had something to do with it because she's a bad seed and he doesn't like her. So we head on over to Harriet's. On the way, I stopped and talked to Miss Lester, and she says that Harriet and Ryan were super close, so we should see what Harriet wants to say. So no idea if she's a bad seed or not. I like that. So we go to Harriet and we ask her if she lived here 17 years ago, and if she did, if she knows a man named Ryan. Harriet says that Ryan was the lighthouse keeper up until he was murdered in the graveyard after someone lured him there. Ellen asks if she has a memento of his, and Harriet gives her a photo of him that's torn down the middle and tells her to check out his old hut by the lighthouse, which implies that there's not a current lighthouse keeper and that they're not using this lighthouse. But I mean, coasts don't stop being treacherous just because the guy who runs the lighthouse died. They should probably fix that.
You said that it's a photo of Ryan. It's not, is it?
Oh,
It's not. It's
no,
not. It's
no,
a
it's
photo
Or
not.
am I
of,
thinking of a different photo?
I think my notes meant to say a photo of his, and then it auto corrected. So yeah, she gives him a photo, but it is not Ryan in the picture. It's some old guy in the picture.
an old man.
Ellen goes to the hut, and Keats is there. He says that whatever Ryan said to Regine 17 years ago set off a string of events, and now Regine is dead, and his only clue is a torn-in-half photo. What a coinky-dink. We have half of a photo, too. Putting them together, we see an old man with gray hair in a doctor's coat standing over a sick bed with Herve, Suzette's brother. Keats asks if he can keep the photo, and Ellen says yes, but wonders what he's going to do with it and decides to tail him to see if he goes to the hinge to open a portal to the netherworld. He does. She asks Keats if she can come with, and he says, sure, whatever. The portal is in the graveyard where Ryan was murdered, but instead of the supposedly normal way of it being a door to pass through, Ellen and Keats instead get dragged down through a portal of darkness that appears on the ground below them. Neat. When Ellen comes to, Keats is no longer with her, but Scarecrow is. He says that this world was made by men, and that's why it has such a terrifying folklore at the end of it. So go kill it, and you can meet Ryan. And that's it. That's the whole cutscene that gets us there. So yeah. Dungeon time. The tutorial fairies followed us here. They don't have the power to move between realms themselves, but if a messenger opens a portal, they can follow through it. Along with the tutorial fairies is Bogle, and he brought his whole army with him, which is good because this is Warcadia, a netherworld locked in eternal conflict. There's some vague, we gotta stop the war now before it's too late business, but that just means you gotta go fight the folklore. So we do that.
Yeah, it really makes me, for a second, I was like, wait a minute, are we going to have some sort of mechanic where we can only spend X many nights? If we have to do this quickly, it's like, no, of course not. What am I thinking? It's this game.
Yeah, you just go fight the folklore.
The gameplay cycle is the same.
Yeah. Along the way, we get some chatter about how the King of the Fairies is up to something, and he's using Ellen to get to the core of the netherworld. Ellen asks one of the exposition boys if they intend to invade the rest of the realms, and they're like, we're only invading here because it's Warcadia, and we kind of have to. Trust us, we're trustworthy. And besides, I'm sure the king will tell you all about it later.
And no one has ever had suffered a negative fate because they trusted fairies.
Yes.
It's normal.
Along the way, I must have missed one of the exposition boys somewhere, because when we get to the boss, there's a bunch of fairies who are like, we must protect the netherworld. Ellen, go home and remember us fondly. And then after you kill the boss by aiming the dumbest cannon in history at really tiny hitboxes and then hurry over without a run button to try and punch him in the face, the fairies are all fading away for some reason. And Ellen is like, no, but why are you doing this for me? And they're like, we must protect the netherworld. And then they just fucking die. And I have no idea what any of that was about. I didn't find.
I was 100% with you on this. I'm like, what is fucking happening?
There's a few times this week where I'm not quite sure of what happened or why.
Yeah. So apparently they put down their lives for us, because later Levine is like, the fairies were stupid because they went and they killed themselves and should have just let Ellen handle it. So maybe they were trying to protect us, but I don't know. It's stupid. After the fight, Ryan is freed from the folklore and he tells us what's up. 17 years ago on Samhain, he was at the church with Harriet, where they saw Herv and Dr. Lester talking inside. It was then that Harriet took the photo because she thought something odd was going on. Dr. Lester used to have a clinic inside the church back in the day, but if Ellen wants to know more, she should talk to Dr. Lester directly. As if we don't already know that Ryan knows more. Our whole lead was that Ryan saw something fucked up and ran to tell Ronaldo and Regine. He should know the answers we seek. He should not send us to Dr. Lester.
You do know this is just a manifestation of people's memories of Ryan that is vaguely being transmitted to us by weird supernatural shit. We're not actually asking Ryan, what do you know?
True, but we have learned things from ghosties that wouldn't have been common knowledge. So
I mean,
my understanding of the mechanics of it.
I'm not saying we can't learn stuff from the memory bugs, but just it's not ridiculous for us to not receive a full picture of things.
Yeah, but it's still stupid and silly, and it made me.
Well, I'm not going to be able to convince you that this game isn't stupid and silly. So, I like this game.
Me too. So Ryan asks Ellen to tell Harriet that it's all his fault and to forget intangible things and try and be happy. And if Harriet doesn't believe Ellen, she should take her to behind the church. 17 years ago, Ryan had called Harriet back there to show her something, and if Ellen shows it to Harriet, Harriet will believe her. Ellen asks Ryan why he was killed, and he's like, oh, that. I made a mistake, you see, and then he turns into a bug. The memory starts with a short, hectic scene where it doesn't show you much. You just see, you're mistaken. What are you trying to do? You want me to ask her? Please, tell me. I understand, but this photo, and I wrote down all of it, and there's a button to rewind the cutscene, and I rewound the cutscene a lot because I'm like, this seems important. And it was, because the very next thing that they do is that whole scene without it being a hectic jumble of text boxes. You just get to see it happen.
Earlier you were saying, oh, the best way to take notes is to take notes as you play, not to do it after the fact. And sounds like you're wrong.
So you should take notes after you play, but you should take them. You should write down what happened in the cutscene after the cutscene's over, and not in the middle of the cutscene and keep rewinding it. You should just let it play out. That's what's happening here. So we see Ryan say, "But Dr. Lester has a heart of gold," and then Harriet is like, "Then how do you explain this photo?" Harriet then asks Ryan to go find out what the girl knows, and Ryan says yes if it will convince her. We see Ryan talking to a young blonde girl saying, "Come on, I really need to know. We're pals, aren't we?" And then we see him drop dead. No hint of the murderer or the murder weapon. He's just dead on the ground now. Then the game just kind of dumps you out with no direction or conversation with the scarecrow or anything. So I'm like, I guess I'm done. and I leave the netherworld to go talk to Harriet. She, of course, doesn't believe that Ellen is a spirit detective, so Ellen leaves to go get proof, but then Harriet says, never mind, I do want to see, and asks Ellen to wheel her to the church. When they get there, there's some night blooming flowers, and Ellen delivers Ryan's final request to forget and enjoy living. Ellen asks what happened in the church, and Harriet is like, in time I will tell you, but now go confront Dr. Lester. And in this case, there's no excuse, Bernard. We know that she knows more. She's being cryptic on purpose. It's stupid. Ellen has no follow-up questions.
Or she's being cryptic on purpose. She wears a fucking veil. God forbid women be cryptic.
Also, if you talk to her as Keats, basically at any point, she goes, "No, stay away," which is not a normal thing to say to people talking to you. It's very funny. Love Harriet. She's odd.
I mean, Keats, I assume, is going into her house unannounced because that's just
true.
how you do things in this game. And most games.
Yes. Speaking of Keats, in his chapter, he says that something that Ryan told Ronaldo and Regine 17 years ago made them want to kill someone, so you better ask around to find out about Ryan. Which is not my read of his final scene at all, that they wanted to kill someone, but okay, fine, I guess. So I head straight to Harriet's house because I was in a hurry, and she says that Ryan was a huge help to her back in the day because of her disability and that he was the sweetest boy. Keats asks for a memento, and she says that she already gave one to that girl from earlier, so we should instead ask the pub owner because they were close too. So, ironically, I went to the pub, which then led me to Harriet's, and then in this chapter, you go to Harriet's, which leads you to the pub. So I talked to the same two NPCs, and only one of them was required in both times, which I think is neat.
Mm-hmm.
Keats heads to the pub, where the owner says that Ryan was well-liked and no one had a grudge against him, so they still don't know why he was killed. But also, they haven't looked into it very much, because that Samhain, a whole mess of people died, and the locals all blamed it on the hag, with capital letters, aka the evil witch from all of the folk stories and fairy tales. And since it was a supernatural force behind it, it's best not to investigate it and get grabbed by the ghoulies ourselves. He says that Keats should go check Ryan's hut for clues, so we do that, and finds his half of the picture. We then see the same scenes again, culminating in Keats and Ellen getting sucked into the netherworld. Inside, Belgay tells Keats that the ancients imagined the afterlife as a pleasant fairy world, but more modern society's thoughts on death is what created Warcadia. It's all guns and desolation and fucked up shit, which sounds about right. Belgay says that there are many, many netherworlds, some farther removed from reality than others, and to go farther out, more energy is needed to open a gate there. So to continue world hopping, he'll need to beef up his power by taking out some more folklores. So we do the same dungeon and we pick up different folks, and along the way we meet up with Levane, who tells us the same info we learned as Ellen about how the fairy lord is following behind her when she opens doors to new nether realms, with the added flair that the fairies are unhappy with how the netherworld is and they seek to change it. But Levane doesn't know any details at the moment, so go find your ghost or whatever. Keats finds his ghost or whatever and kills the folklore without any odd fairy cutscene or cutscenes of any kind, honestly. When it's all over, Levane says that it's a pity that all of those fairies died when they should have left it to Ellen. Keats asks if she has sympathy for the enemy, which I think I also missed last week that they were enemies. I just thought they were different folks. They were just different groups, not that they were active enemies. But as we find out later, yeah, they fucking hate each other. So
yeah, very much.
There were definitely... I don't know if there was a critical path cutscene that cleanly stated that they're enemies, but it was a thing last week.
Yeah, I just must have missed it. So she says that she'll tell him more about who she is and what she's up to if he'll join her. But, oh, hey, isn't that Ryan over there? Keats tells Ryan he's investigating the events from 17 years ago, and Ryan says he doesn't want to talk about it. Keats says that Herve and his dad died 17 years ago, and now Regine is dead, and Suzette deserves to know what the heck was causing all of this family tragedy. Ryan tells basically the same story that he told Ellen, but we get a few more nuggets. Harriet was often distraught over the photo, saying that it was horrible. And when Keats says this photo is just two people. It doesn't look horrible. Ryan says, I know, but it was horrible for her. He also says that he had found out why Herv had died, and he told Regine that night. He also said he told them what Harriet had told him, and their faces went ashen. Before he goes, he tells Keats to tell Dr. Lester in all red caps, the fairy is back.
Fairy is back.
Keats
is like,
is back.
Keats is like, what's all that about? And Ryan is like, I'd love to tell you, but currently I'm a bug.
You have to say it in all caps and in red letters.
It's true. So the bug splody memory is basically the exact same one, just from a different camera angle, and it continues to one additional line. Before Ryan leaves to talk to the blonde girl, that's almost certainly Ellen, Harriet says to be careful because she might have a fairy guardian.
The blonde girl isn't Ellen, it's Mael.
Keats is similarly dropped back into gameplay with no direction, so we head to Harriet's, where the scene doesn't go at all like I was expecting. Keats says that he talked to Ryan and that Ryan died when Harriet should have because she sent him in her place. He asks what it was that Harriet told Ellen, and she says that Ellen is special and Harriet just wanted to test her theory. Keats asks her to explain, and then Harriet says the least surprising development so far. That girl Ellen, she was in the village 17 years ago. And Keats is like, what? With 4 question marks because he's dumb. And don't worry, listeners. It takes 2 more chapters for them to understand any more about this twist. Anyways, back to Ellen. Ellen heads to Dr. Lester's to see what he knows, and Keats is already inside speaking to him. When Lester sees Ellen, he goes, you, and he dismisses Keats and tells him to come back later tonight. As soon as Keats is gone, Dr. Lester asks Ellen, what is the secret password of fairies? Very normally. She's like, wait, what? And he's like, where did you hide the medical records? That was you, wasn't it? And she's like, wait, what? And he goes, never mind. I must have been thinking of someone else.
Never mind. I'm normal.
Ellen has no follow-up questions. She instead asks about Ryan's murder. Dr. Lester tells Ellen to leave. Samhain is over. It's time for us to go home. Ellen is like, look, I'm just trying to figure out my past. I have no idea who I am or what happened to me all those years ago. And Lester says, who gives a damn about the past? Who are you anyway? And Ellen is like, bitch, I just fucking said I don't know, and I'm trying to figure it out. He asks if Ellen's been sent to torment him, and she's like, wait, what? And he's like, never mind, leave. I know nothing. I will tell you nothing. Now go. Outside, Mrs. Lester intercepts Ellen and says that she can tell us what happened 17 years ago, but in exchange, she needs a favor. So they head back to Ellen's hut to talk. She says that 17 years ago, something happened and changed within the doctor, and ever since they haven't been able to speak frankly to each other and have grown distant. After the Samhain incident, he was obviously in agony, but shared none of it with Miss Lester and just closed the clinic and they left the village. In the week following Samhain, 3 people died, and the town did not investigate and did not call the police because they did not want any outsiders intruding on the village. She says that there was a terminally ill boy in the village who was supposed to have much more time left, but he died suddenly. Ellen asks if maybe Dr. Lester felt guilty that he couldn't save him, and Miss Lester says that they were both medical professionals, and when he done a goof, he would just be frank with her and talk with her about it. But the way that he was acting makes her think that he was covering for someone else.
I do really like that idea of like, huh? No. He told me about medical malpractice all the time.
So Miss Lester is like, so obviously you understand what I need for the favor, right? And Ellen's like, no, I just got here. I have no idea what's going on at all. Could someone please just answer my questions instead of just turning into bugs? Miss Lester says that she knows that about Ellen's ability to speak with the dead, what with Ellen literally opening conversations with everyone in town. So Miss Lester says that the boy's name was Herv, and Ellen says that she knows him and surely she can find him. Miss Lester thanks Ellen for speaking with her and for helping her lighten her burden. Ellen says that she says to herself that because we've already opened the door to the fairy realm, she doesn't need a memento, and said she can just go straight there and talk to Deerhead and meet Herv there. How she knows this, I don't fucking know, because it hasn't worked like that ever before. I really thought that doors were like a one-time teleport thing when you're not in Samhain, but nope. Outside of the lighthouse at night is a big door to fairy where you can just go back to fairy. Weird. She goes through the door and goes straight to the Deerhead room. She asks Deerhead to summon her, but he has no idea who that is. But someone else is coming. That someone is the little blonde girl who we've seen in multiple memories. And Ronaldo said that there were only 2 children in the back then, and Herv, who was Herv and one other. And we've also been told that Ellen was there. So logic says that this should be Ellen, but Ellen isn't dead. And also, Ellen's name isn't Cecilia. Cecilia says that she and Herv hid it together and promised to dig it up when they grew up. So he mustn't give up with regards to his illness. Ellen asks Cece if she's dead, and Cece pointedly doesn't answer. She says that Herv has already left and he wants people to stop worrying about him and move on. He has gone to the bottom of the sea, and Cece is worried about him. So please, Spirit Detective Senpai, go find Herv. Their treasure is buried at the ash tree by the lighthouse, and that should help her find him. Cece does not turn into a bug and just walks away. So Ellen leaves the memory pub. When she does, she sees Dr. Lester wandering in the path ahead of her, which is weird because he looks distraught and he's mumbling Herv's name over and over, which is also weird because she's still in Fairy and only dead people do that. Ellen is like, why is he here? Perchance. And I'm like, you can't just say perchance. Fade to exterior day, Lighthouse Cape the next day. In a clearly framed shot, we see a tree in the distance on the cliffside next to the lighthouse, and I have no idea what an ash tree looks like. So Ellen goes to the one that the filmmaking was pointing at, and of course, that's not it. It's one that literally cannot be on screen until you get to it, the way that the bespoke camera angles are. Took me forever to find this fucking tree. Ellen digs at the foot of the tree and finds Herv's medical records. Why is that their treasure? Tucked in with all the medical records is a hand-drawn picture of something, and the UI calls it Cecilia's picture.
I wonder whose it is.
Ellen doesn't read the records to find out what's going on, and said she decides to use them as a fucking memento. She heads back into town where it turns out that Dr. Lester has been murdered. No one knows who did it, so obviously everyone thinks that it was the hag. One of the guys, which I've figured out is O'Connell, because that's the name on one of the houses there, and it's the only one I haven't gone into yet, and I don't recognize him.
You haven't been talking to O'Connell?
I have not been talking to O'Connell.
You haven't been talking to the weird dandy that hangs out on the left side of town?
Extremely weird dandy who had a line of dialogue this week that I'm going to bring up at memorable moments because I found it utterly baffling.
Yeah,
there were lots of baffling lines this week.
I also, speaking of him being a dandy and being very properly dressed, I went into his house and he lives in a 1-room shack that is filthy and he has no nice things. The only nice clothes he owns are his dandy outfit, which good for him. Dress for the job you want, not the one you have, I guess.
I was going to make a reference to Twin Peaks because this game is very clearly inspired by Twin Peaks, but I can't remember the name of the weird dandy in Twin Peaks.
I can't remember it either.
Twin Peaks. What's that guy's name? But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Andy's rival.
So O'Connell says that it's probably the hag because there really has been a weird old woman hanging around the village. Keith says, Ellen, maybe this is your fault. Maybe you coming to the village caused all of that. Suzette says, fuck you, don't casually toss a murder accusation at a woman like that. Also, you showed up at the same time. It's probably your fault. And Keith's like, you got me there. Maybe it was fate. Keh, heh, heh. Which is a very normal thing to say at the scene of a murder.
Very normal way to laugh.
Yeah, I did that laugh. I was like, are you one of the folks in disguise or something?
No, he's just weird.
Yeah. He continues to deliver one-liners standing over dead bodies, and it hasn't stopped yet. So Ellen thinks to herself that maybe she can talk to Dr. Lester in the Netherworld and find out more about Herv and use Cece's picture as the memento. That night, she goes to activate the hinge, and Keats is there. She asks him why he's there, because... at this point, I got confused until... writing my notes until just now when I went back and I saw that I had taken notes to answer this earlier. I didn't proofread this week, but the way that this scene goes makes it sound like Ellen still doesn't know that Keats is also a spirit detective because he hid it from her for a stupid long time. But in the last chapter, they went into the Netherworld together. So when she stalked him to see that he was messing with the hinge, she should know at that point, what's up. So this scene was just confusing because Ellen just says, "What?" a lot. So
Yeah.
That's what she
ignore
does.
that. She asks him why he's here, and he says that he was worried about her because she shouldn't be wandering about with a murder on the loose. He asks Ellen for the medical records, and Ellen gives them to him, asking him to solve the murder, and she'll focus on figuring out her past. Keats says that the murders of past and present are linked, and that the villagers are hiding something. Keats sees Cece's picture and asks about it. Ellen says that she found it with the medical records, and it seems familiar somehow. Keats says, "Oh, it's the view from the beach, and Ellen should head there and check it out." When she does, she says again that this place has a familiar melancholy, and then the lighthouse blasts a beam at the water, creating a light bridge that she can walk across to the new world and the netherworld. When she gets there, she's confused and asks Scarecrow how was she able to open the door because she didn't hear any voices this time telling her where to go, and she wasn't summoned. Scarecrow says, "Maybe you were, ooey hee hee." Cool. So he says that the only reason that she can talk to the dead is because their soul lives on in people's memories. But once someone is forgotten, they can no longer be reached. This new realm, the underwater city, has almost been entirely forgotten, so it's on the edge of fading into oblivion, and she better hurry to go fight the Folklore. Ellen asks if that will help her talk to Lester and Herv, and Scarecrow says, "Of course it will, ooey hee hee."
Tremaine is the name of the dandy from Twin Peaks. I'm sorry, I haven't been listening to you because I've been scrolling through a list of Twin Peaks characters.
So, with no question as to why he ended that sentence with laughter, we head off into the dungeon.
It's his affect.
The Fairy Lord is here in the flesh this time, and he says that it's finally time to answer some questions. The fairies are seeking the Netherworld core, which is a special place beyond the five realms. Ellen doesn't ask why he told her there were as many realms as there were stars if there are only 5. Does he think there are only 5 stars? Again, she has no follow-up questions. He says that the core is a place that can only be reached by those who have overcome their fears, and it is her journey to the core that will uncover her forgotten past. Ellen is like, "I know why I am going, but why are you going?" He says that 5,000 years ago, someone broke one of the laws of the Netherworld, and it's on the fairies to fix it. Why they waited so long to fix it, who knows, but now's the time, and they can fix it with Ellen's help.
Where I'm like, wow, I've heard of procrastinating, but goddamn.
I mean, Levane is like, in one of the scenes, Levane is like, "Fairy Lord, how many messengers have died this way?" So presumably the Fairy Lord has been getting other people to try and help him in this. And apparently
every single one has died for 5,000 years.
Apparently it's really hard because no one's been able to do it in 5,000 years.
Yeah, we see they just should have enabled the autocomplete motion controls, and then they would have been able to do it. That's where they messed up.
Yeah.
He says that they can fix what's wrong with Ellen's help, but first she must defeat the Folklore in this realm. A bit into the dungeon, she runs into Keats and Levane. She's like, "Keats, why are you here?" Which is again why I misremembered, thinking that he was still hiding it from her until now. But they went together last chapter. Ellen's dumb. She's like, "Keats, why are you here?" And Keats just laughs. Levane sees the Fairy Lord, who I guess was falling behind us just off screen this whole time. And he says that Levane is a curse upon the Netherworld. And she asks if he's up to his old tricks again and how many messengers have had to die this way. Ellen is like, "Okay, but no, really, Keats, what's going on here?" And he's like, "I guess there are 2 sides to this conflict. But by the way, about Herv, he's headed towards the Swamp of Oblivion." Levane says that the Swamp of Oblivion is a gurgling pit of nothingness, and any who enter will slip from existence and be forgotten. Ellen is faced with a choice: go fight the Folklore or save Herv. I chose fight the Folklore, and Ellen asks Keats to go and save her for her. I don't know what happens if you choose the other, but Keats doesn't get to choose, so it's probably a but thou must.
I mean, I assume if you choose the other way, then you just choose depending on who you play first.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't feel like replaying the chapters to figure it out either. So you then continue along the dungeon, fighting and dodging a bunch of really fucking annoying enemies, and you eventually get to the Folklore, who's a big honkin' eel thing. You gotta zap it and then cut it to shreds, eventually defeating it, and it rules. It was a very fun boss fight. When it dies, you speak to Herv, who says that he has a tape in Dr. Lester's office, and to play it for Mrs. Lester, because he still feels the same way that he did back then. You also run into the King of the Fairies on your way out, and he says something, and I don't remember what it is. And it's probably not important. He said something, and I finished the cutscene. I went to go write my notes, and I could not remember what he said. It's probably not important. So then you go back to Mrs. Lester and you play the tape for her, and Herb says that he doesn't blame them and he loves them and something like that. As Ellen leaves, Miss Lester talks about how Cece didn't die but left and has now come back, which is a big twist we didn't see coming when we started up the game.
Yeah, definitely wasn't the most obvious goddamn twist I've ever seen.
So I feel Miss Lester said something else important, but I also don't remember or care. So back with Keats earlier this morning, he is intrigued by what Ryan meant by the fairy is back. So even though he should absolutely stop caring about this case and leave the town, he can't help it. So he decides to go tell Dr. Lester. Dr. Lester is like, the fairy in the village? No, heavens no. Could she be ... But just then, Ellen knocks on the door and comes in, and we see the same scene as earlier, and Dr. Lester asks Keats to come back that night. Keats is weirded out by Dr. Lester's response, but he did say to come back later, so maybe he's ready to talk, just didn't want to talk in front of Ellen. But that night, when Keats returns, Dr. Lester is nowhere to be found, and Miss Lester is worried. She asks Keats to find him, as she's afraid that something bad has happened to him. And honey, I have some bad news, because when Keats and Suzette head towards the henge, they see the black-clad creepy figure we saw in the distance last chapter, standing over Dr. Lester with a bloody knife. Suzette asks who's there, and the figure responds by fleeing into the darkness. Then we see the same scene the following morning where Ellen, I wrote Suzette in my notes, but it's Ellen, where Ellen comes to the Lester's home and discovers that he's been killed. After Ellen leaves, Keats has a conversation with Miss Lester to see what's going on and what Ellen and Dr. Lester had to do with each other. Miss Lester says that she doesn't know, but Ellen reminded Dr. Lester of Cecilia, and he had been muttering Cecilia's name all day and the day before. But Cecilia has been dead for 17 years, so obviously it can't be Ellen. Keats snarkily asks if there's anyone alive in this town anymore, and Miss Lester says, "Fuck you, my husband was just murdered. Why would you say that to me?" and sends him away. He heads back to his hovel and rests for the night, only to come to walking around the henge. Concerning, but Keats is like, whatever. And then he sees Ellen, and we see the same scene from before, where Ellen doesn't hear anything when she offers the paper, and Keats sends her to the beach to see the scene from Cecilia's painting. Keats then tries the medical records as a memento, and it works for him. He hears the voice of Dr. Lester say he will release flowers that Herve liked at his beloved cliff of She. So Keats heads over, and the gate to the netherworld opens up sideways off the cliff. So Keats gets a running start and jumps off the cliff into the gate. Despite several characters dying from falling off of this cliff, he really trusts his new powers that he doesn't think are real, because that's silly. I would not have done that, but that's why he's the hero of a RPG and I am not.
He's the protagonist of an RPG.
Yeah. He did say so who knows if hero is the right word. In the Netherworld, Belgae warns Keats that the fairies are here, and they are working towards the Netherworld core, the place where forgotten things go. Keats is like, oh, cool, maybe there we can find Ellen's memories, but Belgae is like, not cool, the fairies want to release everything from the core and make mankind remember everything again. Which apparently is bad, I don't know. We head off to do the water dungeon, slightly different than last time. As he heads in, he runs into Herve, and he's like, hey, kiddo, what are you up to? And Herve is like, ultra suicide by erasing my existence in the swamp of oblivion? Keats is like, maybe don't do that. Why don't you talk to someone about what's going on? And Herve is like, it's people like you that make me want to forever dead myself, so I'm going to go do that. And he runs off. Partway through, we run into Ellen and have the scene where Levane and the Fairy Lord have it out, and Ellen chooses to go to the Folklore. We head to the swamp, where along the way we meet Dr. Lester, who tells Keats that that his will is in his desk at the church. Keats is like, why do you have a will prepared if you were murdered? And Dr. Lester is like, no time for that now. Herve was eaten by the Folklore. Go save him.
Why would an old person have a will?
Oh, no.
So we go to fight the big eel with Keats this time, and the arena is much smaller, so it's much easier to handle, and also much harder to dodge when it goes fucking crazy at the end. So it was, again, a really fun boss fight. After the fight, Dr. Lester approaches Herv, and Herv apologizes, saying, I didn't come to see you earlier because I was afraid to talk to you. And Dr. Lester says that it is he who should be apologizing because he couldn't save Herv, and he couldn't save Cecilia. Herv says, but Cecilia is alive. And Dr. Lester's like, oh, then what she said was true. And with peace, passes on to the great church clinic in the sky. Herv says that he's glad that Dr. Lester was finally at peace because he caused him so much pain in life. Because Herv caused him so much pain in life. Before he leaves, he asks Keats to protect Ellen. On the way out, he runs into Levane, who says that the Fairy Lord is wary about other humans besides Ellen reaching the Netherworld core, so to watch out for him. Back in Doolin, Keats heads to the church to read Dr. Lester's will, and by will, he of course meant suicide note. He was contemplating suicide but was murdered before he could do it. In the note, he says that 17 years ago, he set off a chain of events that caused much misery, and the recent deaths are no doubt related, and it's too much to bear, so he's going to kick his own bucket. Keats wonders what Lester meant by all of that. Was it a medical mishap that sent it off, or something else? And why was he murdered? Find out next time on Tim Burton's Twin Peaks Halloween Spectacular.
Okay, have y'all noticed something off about the efforts in the voice acting term?
The ... dots?
No, the efforts, like the sounds you make when you're attacking something or dodging.
Oh, as I said before we started recording, my surround sound apparently is messed up, and I have not noticed that they talk during the game at all.
So the efforts, to me, sound like completely different voice actors, and I'm wondering if they just used the ones from the Japanese version.
Oh, that's interesting.
Weird. It's fucking weird. Ellen's voice is so much higher pitched when she's making a I just dodged sound.
I haven't noticed. I will have to fix my sound situation and check it out. There was some anime I was watching where, to save money, they didn't redub any of the efforts, and a guy going "ah" in English is way different than a guy going "ah" in Japanese, and it was the weirdest mismatch in the entire world. So weird if they did that here.
It is sort of weird that I don't recall O'Connell ever being in the game other than just standing in that one spot, and you can talk to him if you want, and then suddenly he's in this critical path scene like, hey, I'm here now. I'm not going to be introduced or anything. I'm just gonna talk about the hag. This game's storytelling is whack. I enjoy it.
It is so whack.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of O'Connell, I got to talk about that. There's one line from O'Connell when you're playing as Ellen that it broke my brain a little bit. And I've been told I maybe it shouldn't have, and I'm just being ridiculous. But at one point you talk to me, he says, "A bloody history, unbefitting of a village with so many legends." And I'm like, "Excuse me, sir. What does that mean? How are legends, having a lot of legends, contradictory to it having a bloody history? To me, those go hand in hand. What are you talking about?"
I think there's some translation mishaps in this game. I've had there be a number of sentences I've encountered where I'm just like, that doesn't make sense in a very straightforward way, and it doesn't seem like they're being cryptic or that I'm misunderstanding something. It just seems like this was mistranslated.
Yeah, I'm despite being on the PS3, I'm getting very hard, like, B-list PS1 RPG level translation from this game, which is odd because Japan Studio usually is really good at that. Their localizations are usually real nice, but
did Japan Studio I mean, I know they did something on the game. Was that what they did?
I don't know. I just know that they're related to it, and they weren't the developers, so that sounds like it would be a publisher thing. I have no idea. Now I have to look it up.
So one of the directors of this game, the executive director, apparently, Yoshiki Okamoto, turns out has a pretty wild career. Did a lot of work at Capcom, including Breath of Fire 3, Breath of Fire 4, and Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
Nice.
Was the general producer of the Zelda Oracle games, and also did a bunch of other cool stuff, and then went on to found Game Republic and make a bunch of weird shit like Folklore.
The Wikipedia doesn't even list Japan Studio on it, though it is definitely one of the first logos you see when you start up the game. So I'm going to Movie Game, see if I can figure it out. So playing this on our PCS3 is very cool because they do something that every emulator should have. They have the patches built in. Like a lot of emulators have it for widescreen patches and like performance patches and stuff like that. But this like has, you just open it up and it's like search for patches for this game. You can just click them and it puts it on, and that's so handy. I wish all of them would do that. One of the patches that you can turn on is I did the one for the motion controls, not because I hadn't gotten used to it, but I knew that it was going to be a beefier bit this week, and I have less time. And I was like, if I get to the very end of this boss fight and mess up and have to do it over again, I'll be pissed. So I just turned them off. But the other patch they have is for the unlocked frame rate patch, which is awesome. Except this was back in the day when Japanese developers would just throw in a physics engine but not use it for things. So walking around the game, playing the game, none of that is tied to the frame rate, but the physics engine is. So if you unlock the frame rate, Ellen's pigtails and skirt and Keith's jacket just fucking go crazy the whole game. They're blowing in the wind at like 90 miles an hour. It is ridiculous and very funny.
You can fix that by capping the frame rate at 50.
Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah, I think it's funny just to have it going nuts.
But it does feel fucked up playing this 2007 PlayStation 3 game at 1080p and 50 frames per second. That's not authentic.
No.
But I sure tried to play this game on original hardware the right way.
I did too. But alas, here we are. But yeah, I really am enjoying all of the ways that this game is pissing me off. And there's no way to say it without sounding disingenuous, but like there's something so nice about games that try something weird and fail rather than games that are really good and don't try anything. And
agreed. Totally.
This game being like, what if Devil May Cry Pokemon is stupid, but it's kind of cool. And it's not a joy to play, but the whole idea of like equip a different Pokemon to each of your face buttons, and then instead of putting your menu on a normal button, put your menu on L fucking 2 so you bump it all the time in the middle of combat, or you press it trying to dodge. Those sorts of things are acceptable because it's Devil May Cry Pokemon, and that's fucking weird, and I like it a lot. It's Devil May Cry Pokemon in a Twin Peaks, which is it's cool, and games should be stupid and cool more often.
Bad Japanese games inspired by Twin Peaks is a fantastic genre.
Absolutely.
I need to play and actually finish this time Deadly Premonition.
Mm-hmm.
That game rules.
So, did you guys figure out how to kill the Final Fantasy flans as Ellen?
No, I have been referencing a guide because I was burned on this game mechanically when I got locked out of going to the Folklore as Keats because I didn't have the right folks.
Yeah, I spent forever trying to kill those fucking flans, and either it's the hidden secret folk that there is in every chapter, either that one or one of the ones from before did it, but I tried every single element that I have and was unable to do it. On Keats' side, you get an ice attack, and the ice attack freezes them and lets you kill them, but I couldn't figure out how to do it on Ellen's side.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Speaking of trying to figure things out, I, for some reason, for the entire water chapter, could not find any of the picture book pages. Like I guess I just walked past them, or the mobs were too annoying. So it was like one of the ones where you clear the whole room and it gives it to you. And I was not going to do that or something. So I get to the boss and it lets me in. So I know I have all of the tools, but I don't have the paper, the cheat sheet that tells me how to do it. So I just had to figure it out. And that, in addition to it being a really cool, fun boss fight, it was a joy to play, to be figuring things out and be like, oh, okay, look, if I hit him with electricity, he does the soul-y whoopy thingy. So I know that I'm doing something right. And if I do that enough, he starts to glow with electricity. So that must mean I do something else. And it's a long, skinny thing. That means I'm going to cut it off. And that's how you do it. And it was a lot of fun.
I found that fight rather tedious, just in the ways of like the exact way it moved and the exact motions of my attacks. I found it very hard to actually do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which is a thing in this game.
Yeah. The electricity one that you get in the world has like a 4-second wind up and then only shoots forward in a really tiny arc, and it really sucks. But I had the electric punchy guy from last week, and that's who I was using to do electricity. I think I got him once with the new one. I was like, this sucks. I'm going to see if the other one works, and the other one does work. So that's how I got through it. But yeah, the having to wait on him to do the same 3 attacks that take forever over and over again is not great. But the parts where he's out of the holes and you're fighting him were all fun for me. But I don't like bosses whose job is, or whose attack pattern is just don't stand still for about 30 seconds while I'm doing my own thing over here. That parts were not as good. But that will do it for the week. If you like what you heard today, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will help us offset the cost of running the show. If you decide to donate $1 more a month, you'll become one of our gadabouts and also get access to our bonus feed filled with after shows for every episode, as well as bonus seasons of the show, such as Tales of Podcastia, Escape Pod, and the JRPG Canon. If you up your donation to $5 or more each month, you can become one of our warriors and get your name read at the end of every episode, a little like this. Shouts to Dragon Slayer 19, Freddie Rodriguez, and J-Fro Prime. And I should do an update, because there's a poll open and I forgot to mention it. So yeah, if you donate to the show $1 more a month, you can vote on polls to see what game we play next. And we have a poll open right now, and it looks like currently Golden Sun is in the lead by only 1 vote. So if you don't want us to play Golden Sun, you should go vote, and your vote will be the swing vote. So
if you want us to play Panzer Dragoon Saga, Radiata Stories, or
Dragon Quest IV.
Dragon Quest IV. Then make your vote known.
Sorry, I had lag. I was already telling you when I heard you say don't tell me. But yeah, while you're there, if you really, really love us and you want to be a luminary, you can donate $20 or more a month and get a short 1-sentence shout out or advert read at the end of each episode, kind of like this. Shoutouts to Kale Dronas, who says to check out Podcasters Assemble. It is a documentary-style, crowdsourced movie, hype, and rewatch podcast. Every season, podcasters from around the world are assembled to review, reminisce, and riff on a popular franchise. Shoutouts to Vimke, who says she looked up at the scarecrow towering before her, and he stared back, one-eyed, horrible, and baleful. And then shouts to It's Claire Time, who says, for you TTRPG nerds, check out Fabula Ultima, who just launched a Kickstarter featuring new books with art by Yoshitaka Amano. Still not affiliated with the game, just a great system to play your own JRPG. For RPG Book Club, I've been Sam.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye-bye.